Alrighty, welcome back to the Dice Bearers. Today we are going through the Middle-earth Masters 2022 Army List Review. Today I have with me Alexa.
Hello everyone.
And I also have with me Tom.
Hey everyone.
And we are going to be going through all the lists that were submitted for the Masters event, talking about our thoughts, things we like about them, some of the things that we think we could have done or seen differently, and just our overall thoughts of, all the different lists. So, let's jump straight in with the Forces of Good. With our first list, we have Tim, who is running the Army of Thror. He's bringing Thror, Brain, and a captain with a shield. He's got 16 spearmen, and he's got 15 Grimhammers that I assume have been upgraded to Guardians of the King. What are our thoughts of this list?
It's a lot of dwarf. A lot of dwarf. Now, obviously, we're assuming that they're going to be the Strength 4 dwarf. But even if they're not Strength 4 dwarf, there's still a lot of dwarf.
Definitely.
What do you think, Tom?
I think this is just, I know, Chris, you've played this army a couple of times. It's just an immovable rock. So if their 5-inch move can somehow get to an objective before you, it's just that really hard, awkward position where you've got Grimhammers throwing weapons at you. And you're just bouncing back off them if you're trying to get into it, and it's just a hard time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think having so many throwing weapons, he has one less throwing weapon than he has spearmen. Like, that is a lot of short-range power that's coming out straight at you. And if you don't have a way to close that gap quick enough to avoid a round of shooting from Grimhammers, oh man, that can be a lot of damage that comes out.
It's dwarf range power.
Very much so.
Yeah, look, I think it's a solid list. I think Thrain is a very powerful combat hero, Thror is a very solid tank, and the captain gives you some march. Potentially, you could look at also in a list like this going for maybe like a Balin, so you had the priority rerolls to get sort of control of the game. But then you're dropping a lot of combat power on Thrain, or you're missing march, so it's very much sort of a decision point. But it's a solid way of running it. Definitely.
I think dropping out Thrain for that Balin with a banner and maybe a few extra warriors could be a really nice option as well. But I think Thrain is fantastic for what he is. He's burly, he's powerful, he hits like an absolute truck. And with the map-wide standfast as well, like that could come in clutch in games. So we'll see how he goes with it. Yeah,
awesome. Next list then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, so I'll take us into Daniel's Arnor and Misty Mountain list. We got Avadui, we got Malbeth the Seer, and we got Guahir with a Great Eagle. So, it's bow limit of rangers plus hobbit archers. We got a solid number of warriors, an Orient guy with a banner, and some rangers with spears. Is that 2 eagles then? I take it? Guahir and a Great Eagle?
Yeah, Guahir and an eagle.
Ooh, spicy! Alright, what do we think Tom is our resident eagle expert?
Well, I just love that Guahir's special rule can actually come into effect this time. It's not just Guahir dropped in. Oh yeah, I can actually march with someone. So I think I've never tried this army, I've never seen this one, but I have heard a lot of good things with this. I think one of the weaknesses of eagles is the lack of might and bodies around them. So having cheap warriors around them, as well as warriors that will also survive longer than they should with Malbeth, means that the eagles can't get pinned as often as they normally do if they run pure or if they're just allied in to some other army list. So you've got real staying power with the D6 of Arnor. You've got a lot of peppering shots coming their way, as well as just hurls and barges and different things really mess up lines, and then just get into that space and just block the space up and let your big eagles do their thing.
And I think the best part about a list like this is that it's using the Arnor profile, which is incredibly cheap for what you pay for it. Like, it's only 8 points off the top of my head for
Correct. 8 points for a +1 a fight on and a spear on a warrior of Minas Tirith, but on the courage too.
It's just fantastic. And so I think when you look at it in that context, this army really shows up, because just a third of the time, like, your models are just going to keep bouncing around, and sometimes if you get lucky, bouncing 2 or 3 saves off the same model, you just blocked an enemy heroic strike combat going into an eagle. And that's, I think, what makes this a cool list. Now, Arbajuli does drop his Fearless bubble.
Yes, that's
going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, that's the scary thing for this list, is like a Ring Wraith list with Terror Front would be just terrifying.
Fear.
Well, there's that, but also the fact that it can shut down the Eagles with magic, and then the Warriors just take an L on the Terror, like Courage 1. If you break
Exactly.
against something like that, your army could just disappear in a turn if you can't get a standfast off. And Gwahia's standfast doesn't affect non-eagles, so...
Obviously, Daniel's a genius.
That's-
2 eagles. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so it's true. The eagle will get to pass. The Arnorians might all sort of disappear from the table at high speed. But
Yeah.
that's very much a matchup thing. I don't think that takes away from the list strengths. It's just saying to be sort of cognizant of running the list. And to sort of keep an eye out and like, there's a ring wraith. We better not break.
Yeah, let's be careful on this one, boys. Yeah.
I will be interested with this though to see whether the banner, if it follows the eagles around or if it stays with just a big block of warriors.
I really hope we just have one warrior with a banner just sprinting as quick as he can behind those eagles the whole game.
I think that's
He
kind of
latches onto seize the prize and he's just hanging from the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think they probably will keep the banner closer to the eagles than they will the Arnor. If it was me, I would be doing that anyway.
I think ideally you want to try hit both, but it's tricky.
Yeah, but with only 3-inch bubbles,
If
and
it's
big
a
bases,
choice, if you have to make the choice, you go for the eagles.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Tom, do you want to jump us into the next list?
Yeah, so we'll jump into Luke's bringing the Defenders of Erebor list. So he's got a couple of the new toys to play with. So we've got Thorin the Third, Stonehelm, Bard the Second, and Biffar. And he's got a mixture of Knights of Dale, a couple of basic warriors with Spear and Shield, but then the High Defense Iron Hill. So he's got the Spear Shield combos, a banner, and 2 Goat Riders, as well as only 3 shots coming from crossbows. So I think this list is just the classic, I don't know what to do sometimes. As soon as the Knights of Dale are on the table, if your opponent knows what that rule is, it just messes with their head so much more than it should.
And I love the fact that this list goes, you won the move off. Cool. Do you want to give me Burley?
Yep. Thanks for calling a move. Go for it.
It's so upsetting. The only downside to that is your Knights of Dale do have to be the front line for that, so you're missing out on that D7 or 8 to get that Burley on those Knights. But I think that's okay. I think you want to sprinkle them in just in the right spots, where you're plugging gaps, or I'd even park one next to each hero just in case, things like that.
Yeah, funnily enough, this is where you wish your Iron Hills guys didn't come with shields base, so you could, like, on the cheap, put them only with spears, and then just go with the Knights of Dale at the front. But still a solid combo, and I get the rerolls to wound from the Legion and the banners, so there's a lot of solid stuff coming in onto those Knights and onto those already solid base warrior profiles.
Very much so, yeah.
Biff is that dwarf who, if he kills a model, it's a free heroic move, isn't it? Is that him?
I don't remember which dwarf is Biffa.
I think
which rule is he?
It'd be interesting to see how many heroic moves were called for free and force people into a +1. I'll spend it.
Definitely. I think this is a list that could very easily snowball ahead of their opponent if they get one good turn of the right engagement, especially with a couple of goats in the list, like heavy cavalry, put into the right spot, just destroy folks. And with Thorin being able to regain some might throughout the course of the game and getting a whole bunch of out of those banner effects on both those named heroes, I think this list definitely has a lot of legs.
Yeah, solid stuff.
Also, just theorizing, it has the potential to kill quite quickly and then actually just stall out the game with shielding as well.
Yes, everything has
So
a shield.
It can get away from the 5-inch. Oh, I can't get to time to just. All my guys are just shielding, and we're blocking you in.
And just hope the opponent's not stabbing.
Yeah.
There is
the voice is special.
no march, correct?
All that.
Because Biffa doesn't have it, Thorin doesn't have it.
No named hero on the dwarf side of Erebor claim.
I think, and Bard doesn't have it either. So that'd be my only sort of thing is you're kind of stuck on that move 5-6 outside the goats and 8, which isn't ideal, but it does mean you get a lot of power on all your models traded for that. So it's obviously, as always, it's a trade-off. Yeah,
it's tricky.
But if they're fighting you straight up, you have so much power out of the 3 heroes and all the warriors, so it's pretty solid in that regard.
Definitely. Yeah. Alrighty, let's jump into a list that has quite the opposite problem, actually, with Richard and his Iron Hill. So, I'm going to read this list verbatim to you, because I think it's brilliant. Iron Hill's Chariot, with a captain, 2 Iron Hills chariots in the warband, and 4 Iron Hills with shield as well. Now, I assume those are just Iron Hills warriors with shields.
No, they're hills.
Yeah, they're Iron Hill. They're literally
they're hills of iron
with shields. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this man's bringing 3 chariots.
I wish I could capture when I read this list. I think I just laughed for like 2 minutes straight when I just looked at it and I was like, okay.
It's like magnificently terrifying, isn't it? Yeah.
Contest of Champions, move off!
Yeah, let's see who wins.
Oh no! The chariots go first!
Yeah, literally, I think it becomes something like that, right? If the chariots go first, like...
Oh, Maelstrom, like, what does that look like for this guy?
It looks like if he doesn't kill you, he's not on the board, so he dies.
Yep, definitely.
Which is... But it means
I wonder if in that situation, if you roll a 4, you might down to a 1. You can come in next.
No, if you have choice where you go, you can just deploy so that you can put your whole base down initially and then hit them. But if your opponent gets to choose where you go, they could actually potentially force you off the board by putting you into like a 3 Fate 3-1 hero, and then your chariot's on the board, and then your chariot dies, and then... Oops.
Well, remember, this is an Iron Hills list, so he gets the +or-1 to Maelstrom as well. So he's always going to get the luxury of picking if he's willing to spend might.
Is that not... Oh, you don't require Dane for that?
Oh, it's just half the army bonus.
Oh, okay, well that's... Alright, if you're playing Maelstrom as this list, all I'm saying is... it's a bit of a...
second, that's my best.
Yeah, go second. Outplay your opponent, roll low. Roll like my Saruman.
Take us away with Daniel's Iron Hills?
Yeah, alright, so Daniel himself, Dane Ironfoot with Warboar, and then an Iron Hills captain with Wargoat and Warspear. We got a solid 10 crossbows, and then a whole lot of goons. We don't even have any goats, do we? Do we have double banner? We do have double banner. That's pretty hot.
Yeah.
That's pretty hot. Alright, Daniel, I'm seeing you. I'm seeing Daniel. I'm seeing what you're doing. What do you think? Yeah. Didn't you write this list? This is our Daniel.
This is, yeah. So this is my list that I just finished my top 4 down. So he wanted to come along to Masters, so I decided, okay, I'll get you a list. Do you want to play with a dude riding a boar? Or actually, I think I said, do you want to ride with a dude that rides a pig that never runs away? And he said, hell yeah, I do. Let's do it. So I put a list.
There we go. All right, good job, Chris. Great writing. What do you think, Tom?
Tom, what are your thoughts?
Oh, sorry. I was reading some other rules. Look, I'll be honest. I did make a cheat sheet for Dan to help run this list, where it just had a couple of rules in bold, such as Master of Battle. It's pretty key for this army. So hopefully he remembers to roll those dice. And we know from Daniel's previous experience that 6s are just...
There's one thing Dan can roll. It's 6s.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he will lose. He will lose to the chariot list though, because he'll have to walk one first.
That's true, yeah.
My feedback for you, Chris, would be why bring a double banner when you can get an extra couple of warriors?
True, because you don't lose fights with your 6s every time.
This is true.
I bought it for the VPs.
He's got a point. He does have a point.
Yep.
He's got 4 points.
Yeah, in fact.
Unfortunately, that's not how that works.
Yeah,
it's for new players. So let's jump on.
Tom, let's just move on.
Yeah. I was already starting. We've got another Chatzel player from Jason M, who's bringing Iron Hills, but this time he's allying in with Army of Thror. So I've got Dane on board, the Iron Hills captain, with this battering of basic warriors, and then he's allied in Young Barlin for that priority remix, with 6 extra warriors. So 5 Erebor warriors, and then 1 Grimhammer.
It's the Grimhammer. That's going to win him the game.
It's just so he can't play in England.
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh, true. Throwing weapons. Can't do it. Yep. Mental breakdowns and memes ensue.
I think throwing weapons are fantastic additions to an army that provide you with flexibility and versatility in a variety of situations.
That's like Sorcerer's Blast when you can hit 2 people.
Wow, Sorcerer's Blast is such an interesting spell. If models A, B, C, and D are all in base contact when the targeted model is cast... you know what the worst part is? The worst part is I still don't have a fucking clear answer.
And you never will. But this list is fun, and I like it. I like Dane, he's always cool. The captain's nice. Jason's been putting in the time with this. The army looks cool. Fun army. We know it, we love it. I wish it had a chat.
Or 3. Alrighty, shall we move on to Andreas and the Kingdom of Moria?
Welcome to the Kingdom of Moria. Chris, take it away.
So we got Balin, we got Floy, and we got a King's Champion. We have a small spattering of like Khazard-Dum, Vault Wardens, some Rangers, actually 9 Rangers with bows all in all. A couple of more just Warriors, and the big one hanging in the backfield every game is a Dwarf Ballista. Tom, what are your thoughts on this list?
I don't want to play it.
As a few too many shots.
No, it's just Floyd. It's just.
Yeah.
I want to get the Alexa. My army list comes up later, and it's just I don't get to play the game when I come against Floyd. So
I turned off the bear transformation 2 turns in a row, and then I turned off his Burly, so he was forced -1 on Beorn, and Beorn got killed by Floy in close combat.
It's by Floy.
Yeah, Floy charged him. Floy and like 3 dwarves trapped him, and Floy just bonked him over the head. Because he had no might left, so he couldn't roll a 6 no matter what he did.
I kept trying to do the heroic move off, and you know I always.
You never won for them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not the play. So yeah, look, it's always it's a Floy army list. It's cool. The Ballista just does its thing. It's the pressure that it lays down. If you can turn off a channel from Fear down one avenue, and then Floyd stands with his line of sight avenue and just goes nah. I read from my book, and then you just have King's Champ doing things and Balin standing still and being a tank.
Yes, and they have not a terrible mod count either. It is still on the low side because it's 4 big heroes worth of investment if you include the Ballista as well. But it's not too bad, all things considered.
I think it's about 5 Vault Warden teams short of being good.
It'll be interesting though,
That's
just
my
watching
analysis.
the Dwarf Rangers jump around. If he gets a favourable range,
the shooting throw on this list is probably one of the highest in this event. Unironically, like top 5 shooting in this event.
I know that Floyd is top priority, enemy number 1, and you just run at him. And then all of a sudden, your dwarves are just jumping over pillars and up rocks, whatever it is, and Floyd just stands there going, "Oh, I wish I could re-roll, but the lads have got this."
Yeah, definitely.
Be fun.
Alrighty, shall we jump into our next list?
Welcome to Lothlorien from our boy Damien. So we got Celebron, we got with the kit, Rumil and Haldir. So the trio of named combat fighty dudes who are not named Orifin. And then it's just a lot of Galadrim warriors. We've got 3 court guard, I think, and then a sentinel. And we've also got 2 banners, which is pretty solid. Oh, yeah, we've got 4 Galadrim court guard, and then just filling out with a bunch of warriors with a mix of equipment. Some shield spears, some shields, some bows. No bow spears as far as I can tell, which is an interesting choice, but lots of shield spears. So I guess the warriors are just going to hang off on the flank and pew while the sort of D6 line walks up. So, and then 2 Galadrim warriors naked, because points be like that sometimes, hey?
I was going to say, probably just a points issue there, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a clever list. I think it has a lot of good tools. Rumil is surprisingly efficient at lower points, I think. And having him comboed in with Celebron is going to make for a scary combo.
I mean, it's also 28 elves, which is actually pretty solid with 3 heroes. It's actually quite impressive.
But I mean, he's swapped out the Sentinel flexibility and maybe the extra fight value to just say.
I mean, he still has 1 Sentinel.
But that's the thing, it's like I win fight value still most of the time. I just can't take on heroes with the basic bar.
I mean, he has enough Galadrim Court to shut down heroes. He's got 4.
He has 4, so I guess if you double rank up into 2 enemy heroes for a couple of turns, force them to strike around, that could slow down the game at least a little bit in your favour, and that gives Rumil more time to do his work. And Haldir just goes in, charges 1 or 2 enemies a turn with a spear behind him. Like, you should be cruising for a few turns. So
yeah, Rumil with the banner.
It's rude.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's jump into our next Lothlorien list.
Yeah, so this one's another take on Lothlorien. So I've got Galadriel this time with a bunch of regular warriors, a couple of guard of the Galadrim Court, which makes sense given that she's here, and then 1 knight this time, and 2 wood elf warriors with elf bow and spear for Alexa.
Ah, the fabled combo.
I refuse.
Rumil again just for a bit of spice, and with a very similar warband, just a little bit less. Oh no,
And
with
a
one
sentinel.
sentinel. Yeah, sentinel. Yeah.
Sentinel's the main ad, yeah.
Bit of extra magic, nice. I think it's got lower models, but it's obviously got a bit more of an anti-shooting with Galadriel there. Is it a little bit higher shooting than the?
I think it's the same model count. I think it's 28 again.
It's a very similar amount of shots as well. Now, notably in both of these lists so far, and probably in all three of our Lothlorien lists, there's no way to march around. So they're stuck coming to you. They're going to have a very slow time just trudging across the field doing it.
No. Yeah, it's all named heroes without march.
But,
For a second, I was going to say I think one of them has march because I imagined the Rivendell Wood Elf hero in one of them, but then I realized that wasn't.
Unfortunately, Gildor does not.
I read Rumil as Gildor, and I was like, "Oh, he's got march. That's good." And then I read the Warband has Galadriel Moria. It's like, "Oh, wait, I'm not reading
Hold
that
on, something's
properly.
wrong. Yeah.
Hold on, here I am. I'm a
No, he's
dum-dum."
a bad hero. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I think this list is a strong list as well. I think having still a fairly low Galadriel Court guard for what I thought I'd be seeing, with only 6 in this list. So 2 more than the last one, but I guess when you're running around hoping to match or beat Fight Fair because anyway, bumping Fight 5 to 6 only really matters against heroes.
And
So
you have
placing
Galadriel
down
for the hero
against-
control, so
Yeah, exactly. And just placing them into enemy heroes and a Galadriel to transfix them up for an eternity is probably the way he's going to play it. So I like it.
solid. All right, our final Lothlorien list, I believe. Take it away, Chris.
Yeah, so we got the power couple of the century, Galadriel and Celeborn. They're leading a fairly similar looking list. So a lot of Galadriel, a couple of knights, so 2, 1 in each warband, 1 sentinel, 3 wood elves, and only a couple of Galadriel Court Guard as well. 2, I believe, in total in this whole list.
Correct.
So this one is the lightest on Galadriel Court Guard, but I think is maxing out in other places, bringing a lot of PJ elves to exploit that shooting without being able to be shot back with terrain and all that sort of stuff. And will probably be playing their, not kiting game, but probably light skirmish game until you're forced to meet them in the choke points, where Galadriel can transfix if the cows come home, Celeborn can double down if there's a cheeky resist that happens, and otherwise Enchanted Blades up and go into heroes for the execution. It's a clever list, and I think it's going to be all on the player to decide how well he executes across these games. What are your thoughts, Tom?
I've got it where this one's obviously got the 2 knights as well, so it seems as if just reading the list, so they're trying to play the peppering with shots and drawing opponent to them, and then it's cool. You're now within 6 inches. My turn to just bring down the hammer. I think how this one will play out on the tabletop. So it's a little bit different to the other list in priorities, but I think it does have a different play style to them as well.
Oh, it definitely does. I think all 3 of the Lothlorien lists have a very distinct playstyle, which I really like. So, yeah, Alexa, any final thoughts before we move to our next group of lists?
Just hope you're not playing Storm the Camp, guys. It's a long walk without march. It's okay, you can veto it. It's fine. You can veto. Don't play that one.
Alrighty. Alexa, do you want to take it away with our next list?
Yes, so we got Chris with the Kingdom of Moria. We've got Balin, Floy, and the King's Champion. So very similar to Andreas's in the hero choices. I think those 3 are the sort of generic 3 heroes for Kingdom of Moria. And I think it's a solid trio. We've got a solid ranger count. I think it's actually 3, 6, 8, so not quite as high. We've got more Khazard-Dum than we did before, so 6 of them, and then just a solid warrior count with like 20 shield dwarves.
Yeah, so this is a throwing axe list. I like this a lot. Very explosive at short ranges.
Yeah, and I mean that's
what are your
pretty...
thoughts?
It's the same thing. I mean, it seems more defensive than Andreas's, but then again, it's got more flexibility in terms of just dwarves with shields are really good at going up to anything and saying, "Cool, I'm shielding at 2 dice. Oh, I won. Mad. Oh, I lost. You didn't win me. Whatever. We go again next turn."
Yeah.
And it's just having a lot of them just gives it that much more because depending on the situation, I mean, shields are just so strong. We can just throw 4 dice into a combat if you don't care if you kill them, just to keep things rolling. You've got the other the other tools to push where you need to push, and you can
and I think
slow things down.
this list is going to be winning a lot of those move buffs. It's going to be in a really good place because it's just going to be getting 2 or 3 chip kills with those throwing axes every turn it wins move off, as well as having Khazard and rangers that would more than happily either feint and pierce and all the rest of it. And I think it's just a very powerful list.
Yeah, agreed. Very solid. All right, we've got some Minas Tirith coming up next. Tom, take it away.
We'll bring it back. So we've got Boromir on horse, shield, and banner, the classic wrap, with Huron the Tall on horse and Madril for a bit of Maelstrom action. So in the mixture, I think everyone's got a knight with shield in their warbands, got the Citadel Guard with longbow and horse, and then it is warriors with shield and spear, and 1 or 2 rangers thrown into their warbands each as well, with 1 lucky Fountain Court Guard coming for the fun.
Yeah, the Fountain Court Guard's name I think is Mr. Objective McGrabby or something.
I think it was
that's the Citadel Guard. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think it was Damrod just wanted to be taken in game. Like, pick me.
Yeah.
I'll wear someone else's armor. But yeah, this one's got the classic. I mean, Boromir just gives such flexibility to Minas Tirith, amping up the fight value. The Citadel Guard on longbow are going to be another good objective grabbing avenue for him, as well as just to knock down angle as well if he needs. Got 2 in each warband, as well as 2 heroes on horse. There's actually a surprising amount of knockdown. Then if you win priority, it's cool. We'll go charge someone else, and we'll let a warrior deal with that situation as well. Then you've got Madril, which is really good for Maelstrom. Huron the Tall is excellent for the counter VP situation.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think this is our highest might so far. 12 might in the bank on this one.
I mean, it's a list with Boromir. Of course, is going to have high might.
Yeah.
It's just default. But yeah, having Madril and Huron both on 3 might as well, it's pretty big. So a lot of pressure.
It's really nice.
So yeah, very solid. I think there's nothing really I'd say is like a hole. Maybe low model count is like the only sort of concern I'd say, but it's kind of tricky to fill out.
Even then, none of these warbands are below half strength.
Yeah,
it's that for it.
I mean, it's solidly tanky numbers. It's all D6 for the most part. There's not a lot of ranges. It's only like
if you lose, you meet combat and you've lost the first 2 quite heavily. Then even if you're winning, but you're not wounding, which Minas Tirith sometimes struggles with. It just
that's my only sort of thought, but it's hard to sort of balance that out, and it has a lot of other upsides anyway. With a lot of might, you can sort of make it that.
Is a lot.
That's true. It is actually quite a lot of cabs, so it has damage potential on the knockdowns and the extra strikes. And Boromir and Huron can both
going to garner strength from. Right?
Yeah, Boromir and Huron can both force through a lot of damage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah. Alrighty. Is it Tom? Do you want to take us away with the next?
It's you. Tom just read. It's you.
Yes. Oh, I get to talk about Gwaihir and Denethor. Yes. So we have Ned running Misty Mountains with some Minas Tirith, or probably actually the other way around. Hey, we got Denethor. We got Farmir. So we got some cute little, angry dad interactions happening. We got a captain with a horse and lance and shield, all the fun stuff, and we also have a Gwaihir. Now, I really like this list because it is predominantly, well not predominantly, but about half of the models are mounted. In fact, a little bit more actually. Falmir and the captain are playing purely mounted warbands, and Daddy Denethor gets to hide in the back with 4 Fountain Court Guard, stopping him running around doing whatever he wants, right? So I think it's a very clever list. I think Gwaihir is phenomenal. It's one of those weird interactions where Denethor is still the leader, and so hope you don't play Contest of Champions. I guess you're just vetoing that one just in case. But otherwise,
you do that and then you just kill it with Gwaihir.
Yeah, but I don't know. I always feel a bit sketchy throwing in 50-50s in contests with leader versus leaders. I think it's a lose-lose no matter how you do it, because it's a bad game for one player.
Having veto just means you never have to deal with contests. Whee!
Yeah, exactly.
So it's objectively good.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this one, Alexa?
Solid. It's got March. It's got lots of cav. It's got an eagle. It's pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, Denethor means you have a cheap hero to bring a bunch of dudes. I mean, you could argue maybe... I guess the point of Denethor is being your leader means you don't lose VP if you throw Gwaihir in aggressively.
Well, I think it's just the cheapest way to bring the model count up.
Well, the thing is, with this list, you
Although,
could fill out the
empty
model
warbands.
count. There's warbands. I think it's more for that denying VP while being able to throw Guahiran aggressively. I think that's the actual point of it. At least to me,
if I was running this, I would, like, as this setup in Denethor's warband, I would make it exclusively bodyguard. Because at the moment, it's about just under half of its bodyguard troops. So it means that if, like, this one could get, if it broke, if some of those warriors start leaving with Denethor, if he's got a broken mind special rule and his bent will that way, he might start losing models as a result. I mean, I guess you've got the army bonus to help out there.
I mean, you got Faramir who's auto-passing courage while Denethor's on the table, and you got a captain, so it's not too terrible.
Yeah, but also, if someone's on that side, like if you're against a ring wraith and they've removed your bodyguard for Faramir's little triangle on that first turn of combat, and he runs out, like, you almost need to run in and throw that evil thing as far away as possible.
As far away as you can, yeah. So I've also figured out all the mounted models in Guahir makes up less than half the army's model count, which means he can be super, super aggressive with a half of the army and just hide Denethor and his warband off in the corner, plucking away shots with the lance. And I think that's what I'd be doing if I was playing a list like this, being super cagey with the troops and being super aggressive with the cav. And I think it'll be entirely on him to make up his mind whether he wants to support his cav or to go all in with that strategy.
Yeah. You can imagine that cavalry charge can pop off as well with +1 wound.
Especially with the hurl being thrown around the place as well.
Yeah, if while he goes in a turn early, and willing to blow might to win a fight and just hurl down a line, and the cav gets a free charge. Like,
it's brutal. Yeah. I've seen it happen. I've seen it win games. It's amazing.
Yep, solid.
Shall we jump into our Numenor list?
Yes. So we've got a nice classic Elendil with horse and shield, Captain of Numenor with horse, shield, lance, and heavy armor, and a Captain of Numenor on foot with just a shield. And then just a whole heap of boys. We've got some bows, a solid bow count actually of 10. That's pretty decent. And then, what's that, 6, 12, plus 8, 20 warriors, and an Abana bro. Yeah, that's solid model count. Strong heroes. Not terrible shooting. Like, it's just a pretty well-rounded list. I don't think I actually... Like, this is probably, if I was going to run Numenor, this is probably what I'd do, to be honest.
I think the double captain...
You go.
I think double captain's really strong. Now, obviously, only one of them has the horse, which isn't the end of the world. Like, you're saving yourself, was it 15 points?
Yeah, and I think it's solid as a sort of foot blocker.
You almost want that sort of rope. So I think I actually really like it, having one on foot, one on the horse.
It also gives you the flexibility to give Elendil and the captain as a standalone. If they meet up and they just go run away themselves, you still have a captain on foot.
Hold the line, all those moves that you need to.
Warriors.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, if they meet up, they then have flexibility what they want. Obviously, Elendil's the beast, and he stay with that group and just get the free hero at combat, slingshot people around. But if Elendil and the captain go somewhere else, that's a major thought in someone's head when you're playing this army as to where are they going, and when they hit, how devastating that first charge can be.
It is going to be definitely.
I wonder though if this is the 3 ships leaving. This could have been all the volunteers they got.
Oh,
what, 20 guys?
Yeah.
See, I don't see Galadriel though, so probably not.
Yeah, true. I don't see a Sildar either. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Alrighty, shall we jump into our last Numenor list?
Yeah. So when they get across the river, they you can get into the Numenor and Rivendell alliance, which is what Eric is bringing. So he's got Elendil on horse with 1 banner warrior. I don't think he's got a spear or shield, so he's obviously just doing the banner to die and give it off to someone else. And he's got another 9 warriors in that warband, 3 with spear, a captain with just base stats, another 9, so 3 with spear, shield, and 6 with shield. And then he's brought in Erebor for some thrown weapons. He's got a Rivendell knight, 3 high elves with spear and bow, another 2 with spear, and then 4 with shield. So he's mixed up the war geek quite well across the warbands. I think it looks as if he's trying to tee up a Captain and Erestor situation, just based off how those warbands are split. Of the elves at the back for the high fight, and the Numenorians for the higher strength. Seems a bit of a twist on the old alliance with Erestor not either Gilgalad or...
Yeah, I kind of like having Erestor. He's a cheeky little hero. Like, 2/2/2, like, he's got the throwing daggers, which everyone, I think, knows about these days. He's just good. He's
full wound rerolls.
Yeah, exactly. He's surprisingly punchy.
Not only in combat, but also on the throwing weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And he'll always have impact as a strike hero as well.
So a solid fight 6, yeah.
It's a nice little replacement of that double captain. So I quite like it.
Yeah, I think it's a solid way to run it. I think it feels hard fitting 2 big ones in this alliance at this points level, so I think going for 2 mid-sized heroes instead and filling out decent warbands is pretty solid.
I think it's the way to go. I think once you're looking at 2 models that are over that sort of 150 mark, you're going to really struggle to feel much more out of your list. Like, I think you can get away with one just over 100, one at 150. But once you start pushing multiple models above 150, that's when your mod counts will really suffer. So supplementing with captains or Erestor in this case, I think is a smart choice.
Yeah, pretty solid overall.
Alrighty, shall we jump into a Rivendell list? Alrighty, we are back. We had to unfortunately say bye to Alexa. He had something he needed to do, but we are going to continue with the review. So let's jump straight in with Brodie and his Rivendell. He is bringing Elrond, he's bringing Lindir, and he's bringing Círdan, the classic 3 heroes, and I absolutely love it. He doesn't have a huge amount of Rivendell knights, but he has a small handful of, I think it's 3 knights. It's about 15 or so warriors as well, mix of shields, spear and shields, and some bows. And, oh my gosh, bow, shield, and spear, the full kitchen sink on some of those ones. Yeah, they're 17 armed man. Or elf, I should say. What are your thoughts on this list?
This is, I mean, it's playing off the Elrond combo as well, and then it's got, obviously, Círdan as just the Papa Chief in support. And I'll be interested to see with this list just on the elves and how they're used within this. Are they going to spread out and hold up, and is it just an Elrond show to rip through as much as possible and cast down some spells, as we know Lindir allows him to do? And obviously you've got Círdan on the side. Just doing his thing.
It's a super elite army that I think has to play really cagey to succeed. But, like you said it perfectly, if Elrond gets to just pop off, like, he gets to absolutely carry the show. So
yeah,
I'm definitely
if he runs around with 4 or 3 knights as well.
In
an ideal spot, this list is going to be hard to push through.
Exactly that, yes. Let's jump into a very different take on
so we've got an elf alliance with this one. So we've got Glorfindel with the armor of Gondolin and Athloth, so he'll be flying across the screen, as well as Galadriel's mirror accompanying Galadriel herself this time round. Yes. So there's a combo there that we'll look into. But inside Glorfindel, he's also taxed in a little Bilbo Baggins with the 1 ring. And
I think it's so cheeky.
I think this one it hits you across the face with what Anthony's trying to do. I hope he can pull it off, because it will be hilarious. And then it's got elf warriors from both sides to hold up the court, so to speak, with those Galadriel court.
Well, Bilbo comboed with any model on this list means that your opponent's going to be fight 10. Halved down to the elven fight value. Like, that's what makes this list scary.
And even if Glorfindel's on the other side of the board for 1 turn later, he's only a heroic combat away from joining the other side.
Literally, yes.
It's a scary combo, and then obviously the mirror with Galadriel as well is just there for
just means that Glorfindel
to go into a thrall and say, you can't brutal power attack me. Oh, you might do a wound. If you do, I'm ducking back to that mirror. I'm having some ent draft, and I'm coming straight back.
Yeah. The only downside to it is the mirror is going to be somewhat of a tether for Glorfindel. And I think that's going to be the point of attack for a lot of enemy armies, is shut down the mirror, shut down Galadriel, and the rest of the army really will struggle to pick up the pieces. But if they have enough models, I think, to make this work. I like what Anthony's doing, and it's going to be entirely in his court to see whether he outsmarts and I guess Macro's his opponent, to be completely honest. But I think it's a cool list, and I really like the idea of a Bilbo in it. I think that's a very clever ad.
Yeah, well, he's so cheap in the list. Yes. What he can bring.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's jump straight into Jason and his Fiefdoms. So Jason is another one of the guys that played down with us and is part of the Dunedain. He is bringing a Fiefdoms list, I should say, with Imrahil, Forlong, and Dwynhir. So he's got himself a whole bunch of Axemen, Clansmen, Men-at-Arms, and Blackroot Vale. He's pretty much split them as evenly in terms of ratio as possible. And he is bringing a scary amount of models, 42 models at 650 points, with 5 pikes in the mix. This is a scary force.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Tom?
It's just, if this army can bubble up, it's probably tougher than the other ones, I think, to get through, because you've got Blackroot archers that can just pepper you from that range to try and draw you in. They've obviously got Dwynhir there as well if he uses his special rules to just boost those stats a little bit more. But then once you get in close, it's stackable bonuses. So they're re-rolling the ones from Furlong, and then Imrahil's banner plus 5 value. It's a high 5 value with lots of dice coming your way as well. Plus the way that Jason runs this is having the clansmen at the front. If they win,
so it has punch.
Yeah, they've got punch to get you as well. So it draws you in with the archers, and then once you get there, it's got 2 very big heroes that can put out a lot of damage as well. So plus the army also just looks fantastic. So he just
And Jason's been on this list for about a half year now, and he's been absolutely honing his skills on this list. So I think this is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, it'll be really, really good to see how it goes. And then we're moving into the best 2 slides of the show. So we've got this is the list that I'm taking to the event. So I've got the new Beornings Legion, which is probably the best legion in the game. We've got
a very unbiased viewpoint.
No, it's not biased. We've got father and son, and they're running with them the 6 spares that they can. So I've only taken 3 bows in this list out of the 4 potential, which I know the other Beornings player has taken. And then, I mean, in terms of list building, there's not much to say except my only regret now, after playing Chris the other day, would be that I would take Beornings out of Grimbeorn's warband and stack Beorns. So obviously he's the leader in this situation, but in certain scenarios when you do have to split up, which is not ideal for this army anyway, they can be focused down. And if it's focused down in Grimbeorn, currently that doesn't break me. So it's not as if it breaks me and ends the game and I'm on objectives. It breaks me and then I have a really much weaker force to try and push back a different setting. So that is, for those people who are unfortunate enough to come across this list, but it's very hard to beat. It is the tactic. If you can break one of these warbands and without 2 days to help each other out, that's where it gets quite difficult to bounce
Anytime
back.
you can separate the bears, that's when this list will struggle. And we may as well show Jonathan's Beornings list off as well. It's exactly the same, just with 4 great bows instead of 3, I believe, that you bought. So the exact same warband composition, 6 in each. And I think if I was running a list like this, I think I'd either go like 10 and 2 or just 12 and 0 in terms of Beornings and the warbands, just to really doomstack that Beorn warband, because he's the scary of the 2. He's the one that's going to be forced into combats, yes, but he's your leader. He's the one you really want to be stacked with all the support and all the extra hands.
Yeah. And so it's a 6-inch banner anyway, so you're like, if it is that they fight the Beorn warband, you're still giving that banner effect to your whole warband.
Pretty much the whole warband.
Ideally, anyway, you're still deploying the bears next to each other because that's just how they work best. So there's no real advantage in splitting them up except that it just looks nice on paper. But
exactly,
when you're actually playing the game, next time will definitely be how I'm going through it. But I think it's very fun to play against. I hope. But playing with it is very good. So good luck to Jonathan. I know we'll both have smiles at the end of the day.
100%, yes.
But jumping across to an old favourite of the tournament scene is
oldie but a goodie.
The Riders of Theoden. So he's got the classic Theoden, Aemir, Daewine? I was going to say Jonathon for a second. Nearly had to catch myself. And then he's gone quite Royal Guard heavy. So what is that? 10 Royal Guard with throwing weapons across the list, I think. And then just under 10 just under 10 riders as well. So it's not elite, but it's got a high fight value. Then combining that with
It's got
Theoden's.
enough. It's got more than enough to do the damage it needs to. This is a very, like, 1-2 punch army. Like, the Royal Guard go in, and then they follow up and get absolutely dumpstered down by the other half of the list as well, when the riders follow through. You got Dareline in there for the free combats as well. Like, it's just a clever list. Aemir, like, I think the whole world knows how good Aemir is.
Yeah.
It's just going to be whether or not that death pops off in the right turn, I think.
Not big time.
Yeah.
Then
Alrighty.
keeping on with that area of time, we've got the Return of the King Legendary Legion as well. So it's Aragon, the King, and 1 Herald, and then a total of, what's that, 6, 12, 16, oh no, it's 15 warriors, and then 1 Rider of the Dead as well.
Yeah, so I think I like a lot the Herald edition instead of a Legolas or Gimli into the list. It gives Aragon's banner effect even just more punch to it, and it gives the King of the Dead a lot of agency to actually chase down and do some hero hunting himself. The Herald itself is actually a phenomenal blocking piece as well. The amount of times I've seen a Herald just survive against 3 or 4 turns of being charged down by a burly hero, like, Heralds are good. They punch, they hit hard, and they can take a hit even more. I think this is a really good list.
Yeah, and that also sums up this army as well. Not having Gimli means that you don't have that hamstring in terms of movement within your army. Yes, you have a really big tank in it, but you don't have that movement gap with the rest of your army. And then not having Legolas means that you don't have that. It's not, I wouldn't call it a points trap, because obviously Legolas is very good, but having one warrior or hero that's so different in function to the rest of your list.
It's really good.
Yeah,
yes.
It's good, but it's almost a trap in certain ways when I've seen it played. Where this time you've got a lightsaber and a second lightsaber on 2 heroes, and then a tank as well. So it's like, I block here, I push here, and you can just alternate whereabouts you're going that way as well. And I like having the Riders of the Dead. They're a nice feature as well, just for a bit of speed.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. There's not much you can do in terms of a list to vary this one. But
No, not at this points level.
Yeah, he's committed to a game plan, and he's really just gone for that as well.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Yeah. Alrighty, let's jump in with PJ and his Thranduil's Hall. I'm going to start it off. I'm really quite disappointed that his Thranduil isn't in PJ's. Like, what up? What's happening? What's gone wrong? But Thranduil does have Elk, Sword, Heavy Armor, and the Circlet, so the full kitchen sink, I believe it is, literally all the stuff. And he also has a Palace Guard Captain, to absolutely no one's surprise. Double Sentinel, which is really cheeky. He's got, I think it is 8 Palace Guard. Yeah, 8 Palace Guard, a couple of Cav in there as well. And your normal suite of bow and shields and Mirkwood Elves and that sort of stuff as well. I think it's a clever list. I think it has all the tricks he'll need to boost his fight to 6 and just mulch through people with that army bonus. I think Thranduil's Hall at 650 is terrifying.
Yeah. He's got quite a lot of models.
He really does, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely more than the next list, because they've run it different ways. But it is... Yeah, it's scary, just lots of elves, but elves that find it easier to kill than most people are used to as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's an elf list that will win the fight and then clap you back. And that's not what people expect to be seeing on the table. And that's why I think this list is going to find a lot of success.
Yeah, and then over a 2-day event, you might have a tired soul who goes, oh, cool, a hero on horse. I'm going to shoot out the horse. Oh, no, that hero has more attacks.
Exactly,
yeah,
yes.
2-day brain just kicks in. So we've got Dylan coming across with another Thranduil's Hall. So he's got Thranduil again with the kitchen sink, but this time he's brought with him 2 Palace Guards with shield, which I really like, just because like the Return of the King before, Dylan's refined this list to say, I want to come on here, I want to roll 6s, win fights, and then just kill.
Yes,
and
definitely.
It's just stacking that bonus as much as you can really at this points level. I don't see a way to get more. And
having the privilege of playing against him a few times now, he has really got him down and honed his skills using the double captain list. So much so that he actually puts his Palace Guard in the captain's list. He talks about it mostly as a thematic thing, which he just really likes doing. I absolutely love the fact that he does it, because it means he can kind of like double place his captains on one side of Thranduil. and just have this fight 6 or fight 7 mulching machine on one side of Thranduil's list, and the other side is just shielding out with the glaives, with the shields, and all the rest of it. And he has 4 cav as well.
Yeah.
4 Mirkwood cav at this points level is absurd.
So you're saying shielding, and I'm just looking at that bottom line, being like, that's not shielding. That's killing as well. So
yes. And like a 6-inch banner effect on Thranduil, like suddenly this list is turning up in so many ways. I love the way Dylan's done this list. And I think he's gotten so honed down on what he's doing with this list that I'd be terrified.
Yeah, that one's definitely a scary one.
Yes.
And then we keep popping back for it, but we're going back to Moria this time for the King
Yeah.
of Khazard-Dum. They find a way to just pop up with different tunnels. But,
to be fair, this one's not Moria, so at least it's slightly different.
Slightly. But we've got Durin, a Dwarf King, Marden, and another Ballista just thrown in for some spies. But this time, we've gone a bit killier with some 5 Hearthguard as well. And then just the mixture of Dwarf Warriors and Rangers. The other Warband's quite balanced out. But the Hearthguard give a nice punch, which I know, for the burly and high strength, as well as obviously high defense with the courage. There's other warriors to boost up, but also they all have their own unique ways of throwing out the hurt.
Exactly. This list is going to be really interesting to see on the table because no warband has more than half its warband full. So it's going to be entirely on making that magic happen with Durin, the King, Marden, and those Hearthguard, I think. There's some Iron Guard in there as well. You have a couple of bows peppered in there for all the rest of it. But it's really going to be on making those heroes count and using that Ballista to draw them into the right combats.
Yeah,
so I think Tristan's...
We've got March in this one as well with the Dwarf King.
Oh, yes, finally. March is thrown into the mix as well, hey. Because I think the other ones are... although, Barlin has March, so there's March on those lists as well.
Okay.
But, yeah, I think March in a Dwarf list is very important to have and really keeps the game going in a good way for the Dwarf play, especially that they can reach those objectives early. Yeah. But, yeah, otherwise, let's jump into our Grey Company lists. So we have William, who is running one of our 2 Grey Companies. He's got Aragorn with the full kitchen sink, but a horse, actually. Oh, but Great Company Legendary Legion won't be able to take a horse. So we got Aragorn with the full kitchen sink. You got Gimli with an elven cloak, Legolas with an elven cloak, Halbrand with a banner, and you got 5 rangers. So this is obviously a very low model count army, but it has a huge amount of power through these heroes. The Legolas, Aragorn, Gimli trio is, I think, one of my favorite in the game and just absolutely packs a punch. What are your thoughts on this list?
Yeah, I think this one's the classic. We can compare it almost with the other Grey Company we have, but they've gone with the Gimli Legolas combo at the expense of some models, so it really is. They need a kite then for that extra turn or 2 to get Legolas a couple of points ahead, so that when the lines meet,
Gimli can really
shine. To go on the massacre. So he's got a banner behind him to help win those fights, and then he's just charging into as many dudes as he can, and just calling the combats, doing whatever, slingshotting with Aragorn, but just Gimli then needs to go and just spin to win.
100%.
Yeah, around it to make up that difference. But it's still got. We can jump across and compare the difference within it because.
Yeah, let's have a look at Chris' list.
Chris Petty's brought the same list. So instead of Gimli, is it 3 ranger difference? Yeah, so you've got 3 rangers plus a pick as the difference. So it's a mini Gimli. Maybe it's Gimli was so keen he joined another battle and dropped one of his walking axes, and this ranger's like, oh cool, I'll take that one.
So I kind of like both of these lists. I think it's going to be really on the players themselves to make the magic happen. When you're playing an all-hero list, it's all about keeping track of your resources and helping your opponent keep track of them as well. And just understanding when is and isn't the right time to commit those points of might. Because this list has so much might built into it. Like, this is by far the most amount of might in the entire event we're going to see. It's, 8? I can't even count anymore. It's too many. Yeah.
Big ones.
Yeah. And, Aragorn is, if the game goes 20 turns, that's 20 more points of might. These lists will be absurd with their might usage, especially with bows on a lot of these models as well. I think Halbrand's the only one without a bow on this list. And so they can just kite for 5, 10, 15 turns if they really want to, calling marches every turn as they walk away.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this list.
I also want to see, just as a competition between these 2 players, who gets the highest kill death ratio at a point. So it's
sure, it's who spends the most might. Surely.
Well, it might get to that point where one of them just blows 14 points of might in a turn to kill
In a turn,
14
yeah.
orcs.
And I've seen it happen too, yeah.
And it's worth it every time. Get that early
Yes.
trade.
Like, I love watching Grey Companies just slingshot combats across each other and just, like, watching the entire line just explode behind them. It's fantastic.
If they find that forest, it's just...
Oh, gigs up. Yeah,
Yeah,
game's over. Go home. Pack up. Yep.
We'll see. Speaking of potential game overs...
Yes.
Steve
and the Vanquishers.
yeah. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So it's Saruman, Elrond, Galadriel, and Gandalf. Run in the Vanquishers of the Necromancer Legion. So despite having a couple of debuffs taken to the list, so not being able to keep people on their feet and all that sort of stuff whilst in combat, I think it's still a very good list. You have Galadriel for that blinding light effects. You got a whole bunch of damage coming out of all of these heroes, to be honest. And with Elrond being the only non-true spellcaster on the list as well, it means they can play a lot of just standing enemy models still for turns and turns and turns, and let Elrond, walk around and do those one big knockdown here, one big knockdown there, heroic striking here, all that sort of stuff. Gandalf can play the strike game a little bit as well, but you do have two heroes with locked fight value, so that's the one thing you're going to have to be careful of, I think. What are your thoughts on this Legion?
Honestly, I'm not fully sure. I was just in my head going through missions that they could veto and do it that way, and how that would help this Legion in certain ways. But
yeah,
like it'll be interesting to see how they play certain matchups. I know, like it's
yes.
I mean,
the one problem with the Legion is a very slow Legion. With no good ways to kind of force the opponent to them unless they can park themselves on the objective. That's going to be one area that they will struggle in quite heavily.
I've never seen this list at a tournament, so under the time pressures, you're right, because it's hard sometimes to force those situations. If it's against an army that can keep out of their range, I know Saruman's a bit hard to do that, but
yeah,
like if you can avoid it, just that magic situation, I think it'll be hard for them to deal with it. But then, I mean, we all know what it's like. Once that starts, it's
good luck turning it off. Yeah,
you can't really get away. So it's a nice segue into the next section, which are our evil lists as well.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Do you want to take it away with our first of the evil armies?
So we've got an assault on Helms deep legendary legion here. So we're starting off with a big captain on a rock. And he is also leading another big captain on a smaller rock. And then accompanying those two big rocks are two siege blisters throwing big pointy sticks. And then what I like about his warbands, he's got 3 berserkers to lead and give some extra punch up close, as well as the scattering of D6 Urukai with 12 pikes and 10 crossbows to back them up as well.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I will say is it's only one banner, which means he's really relying on the gun line of this list to do all the damage for him. And if those ballistas and crossbows can't do the work, then he's really, I think, going to start to struggle when lines meet properly. Although it is still Urukai, and magic always happens when Urukai profiles are on the table.
Yeah, I was trying to compare this to the other list. It was the Dwarf Ranger list that we're saying was the shootiest.
Yeah.
Like if
I think this might get close to
a bad angle and one Dwarf Ranger gets shot through the rest of them.
Gigs up, right?
This is the shootiest in town.
Yeah. And speaking of shooty lists, we have Riley with another Assault on Legend on Helm's Deep Legion. And it is very similar in terms of their leaders, but has quite different Urukai breakups. So it's only got 1 Berserker in here, has a huge number of pikes, and is only bringing a small scattering of 10 crossbows again. So, both lists, 10 crossbows, 2 blisters, and some Urukai captains to meet you when lines actually meet. I think these lists are probably contenders for the best shooting list going to this event. Now, I personally think blisters aren't that fantastic. And I think there's going to be a lot of matchups where these blisters just get folded on early or surrounded and taken out, or deployment just doesn't work well for the Legion. But that being said, there's always room to veto and to play smart around what your lists actually bring to the table.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just the veto system just allows, if it's that mission pool that says, oh, you got to deploy in the front 12 inches, it's like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I think
it's
you basically automatically say no to that mission, and then let the opponent choose from there. So they're both gone with one banner, so it's like it's priority to keep that around at Uruk-hai, which Riley's got a lot to do that with.
Yeah.
So that's probably when you play this Legion, that's a way to just get in there and secure the VPs. Obviously, just march up to their face and try and shut the blisters down, and then it's aim for the banner.
Yeah. Or even just go for the troops. Like, the amount of times I played against a Legion like this and just broken them and walked away and walked out of line of sight of the blisters, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
By the time they actually get to a point where they can start shooting again, they've probably quartered, and the game's getting close to, if not have already ended.
Well, there's not.
That is the one downside of the list.
Aggressively yell at you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
But another legendary Legion, which, Chris, I'll let you explain the rules on these ones. I do know some of them, but I know there's lots of tricks for this one.
Yeah. So first of the assault on Lothlorien legions. A lot of assaults. I don't know what's happening with
what's happening over there in the Eagle Land.
Yeah, it's very angry people, or orcs, I should say. So assault on Lothlorien legendary legion. We got Musga, Druzag, Goblin Shaman, Wild Chieftain, and a Goblin Captain with a shield. This is Blade. He's running it with small scattering of different things, which I really like. It's a lot of goblins with bows, some prowlers, more goblins with bows, and I think he even has, yes he does, a Wild Warg Chieftain with some Wild Wargs. So basically the gimmick around this list is going to be empowering up the Chieftain and exploiting that shooting advantage. Because of the nighttime rules that this Legion gets, it's going to be turning a lot of those other shooting lists off almost entirely. And because you have to bring so many shamans, this list only has 3. I've seen lists with as many as 5 or 6 at 650 already. It means you just have so much supremacy, especially being able to reroll all of your casts. It just means that you're most of the time getting your spells off with the same sort of consistency that someone like Saruman is getting. And you're getting 3 wizards for the same price. It's really spooky. The only downside is it does have a lot of goblins, which can get absolutely steamrolled in the wrong situations. So it's going to be a lot of keeping your models in the right places and taking them into the right combats and empowering them up with the right spells as well.
Yeah, 'cause that's the thing. I mean, this list has gone high on goblins. It's gone lower on the bats and spiders compared to the other 2. I know definitely on the next one.
Yeah.
So it's relying on that side of the rules where it's nighttime and the honesty goblin bows compared to obviously it still has the tools to power up the chieftain and go down that avenue. He said it's optionality.
I think it's almost using that like
a little goblin can suddenly kill out a captain.
Yeah, exactly.
For chieftain.
Yeah, I like how he does have the captain here instead of that extra shaman though. It means he can march and just fade as people are trying to close the gap into him.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a really important tool for him to use going forward in the game.
Those prowlers can then find something juicy.
Exactly, right? Or just being able to slingshot them in on that turn with that extra point of might or 2. I think it's a clever list.
Yeah, it's cool because then you've got.
Let's jump.
I was going to say,
let's jump straight into Kylie. Yeah,
she's got the same thing, but you can see there's a slightly different take. So she's gone for the named heroes this time, and the chieftain just tagging along for a bit of fun, and gone far more with the animal aesthetic. So it's the venomback spiders are in 2 of the warbands. Prowlers again. We've got 14 of those this time. Only 6 goblin bows, so it's really not many compared to that previous list. But you've got the 2 bat swarms, just mean that any of those spiders, that wild chieftain, even like prowlers, just become absolute beasts.
Yeah, they become terrors.
Yeah.
And I think having the few little wild gliders and the double bat swarm in that Musga warband as well is a really clever tech-in. So I think this is going to be one of those lists to watch out for at the event.
Yeah, but I think it's the same thing with that one orc warrior with banner and his spear and shield. It's just going to be like sprinting after or sprinting away to hide the BBs or whatever it is. It'll be funny to watch how that works out.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's have a look at our, I believe, last of the Assault Legendary Legions. Yeah. So we got Scott running similar heroes. So Double Shaman, Wild Chieftain, Druzag, and Musga. So again, very, very similar. He's running, this one is the Goblin Horde style list though. So he's got his one or two little extra things kicking around. So he's got Bat Swarm, he's got the Chieftain, and he's got a couple of Warg Riders here and there. He's also got 5 just Orc Warriors with Spear. I kind of like that. I think he probably had some extra points or something like that they want to throw in, or just feel like that warband enough in case they get separated out with like a Maelstrom maybe.
Yeah.
But bringing the ban on the Orc side of it, as all of them will be always doing, having a whole bunch of gobbies. So this is the higher model count, really relying on just Druzag empowering up the Bat Swarm and the Chieftain to let them do the big hitting.
Yeah. I think also this many models allows for the patience game. So it's got
exactly
like
that.
He's got less options in terms of who we can power up, but where Kylie's list needs to be aggressive to
make it work. This one can kind
so
of
it can be
along
slightly
there.
more passive. And
Yeah.
well, if you're not engaging me, I have the shooting advantage. Okay, so
Exactly.
now you're coming towards me. Well, I've got some shields where I can just bulk you down with models, and the chieftain's just hanging around on the outside. Maybe it's this turn I go in. Maybe it's next turn.
Yeah.
It has flexibility within that to decide.
Exactly that. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's
So
interesting. I've got
I'm
3
huge-
lists that all have taken it slightly differently, but are all seem like from a paper standpoint are all still very scary to fight.
Yes. That's the one thing I really like about this Legion. I think you can build it about 8 or 9 different ways and still be competitive coming out of it, because the rules are well written, but not absurd in any single category. So kudos to the creators. And I think we have another very spooky list coming up with our next one. It is Andrew and his Angmar list. Tom, do you want to run us through this one?
Yeah, so this list has been set out as a challenge for him a while back, but it's been a long time coming. So it's the all-mounted Angmar Spookville, basically. So we've got the Witch King striking a 3-14-3 profile, a bunch of Warg Riders with thrown weapons, another few with Orc Bows, and Wild Wargs, and then the Dead Marsh Spectres. So, and of course Gulliver. How could I forget that one? It is the
big Batman himself.
Moving quickly, and you've got the Dead Marsh Spectres to say, hang on. You can't just run away from me. You need to come back here a couple of inches, and then we can do what we want to do.
Yeah, I really needed a heroic combat slingshot. Can you come back, mate? Yeah.
This is, you passed that one? Hey, the next guy. Hey.
Yeah.
You come here.
You passed 3 of them. Good job. Hey, take a compel. Come here.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Andrew's a strong player. This list will just be cool to see because the hobby side will be amazing, but it's also that slight twist to the take that most people would have seen with Angmar. So whilst I played Angmar the first time and say, hey, this thing's so broken, I can't beat it. Oh, cool, I know how to beat it now. Yay. And they come across this Angmar list and like, what the hell? Why have we changed it?
How do I do this? Yeah, exactly.
So it's like the classic all cavalry flip where it changes the way people are playing the game, and then you add into that a Witch King and Gulliver. And it's like, whoa, is this MESBG? It's not how I'm used to playing.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And I like our next list as well, which is another Angmar list. So it is Lachlan running the Witch King with a crown and a Fell Beast this time. So the 3-16-3. He's got a whole bunch of orcs, a couple of wargs, and a spectre in the warband. He's got Berta throwing in with a similar sort of warband, and then 2 barrel rights, both running just a small group of orcs and a few two-handed weapons as well. Quite a few two-handed weapons. Yeah. I think he's really doubling and tripling down on the idea of just the paralyzed, two-handing orcs go in for the coup de grace.
Yeah,
this army,
the terror.
Yeah, it slaps. 3 heroes that bring that 3-inch bubble of that terror out to the orcs means that this army can play really reactively. Yeah. The one thing I have noticed, not many bows, I don't think. Any bows on the list? No, I don't think so. So it's all going to be on that Berta throwing a stone and the Witch King to actually engage people at the long range game.
Yeah, but it's a big stone, to be fair. But I mean, you have 3 warbands that will have a little mini terror bubble, but then you've also got the 4th warband with Berta on a 60 mil plus 3 inches.
60 mil? No. He's on a 40 mil.
Oh, yeah, 40, yeah. But
yeah.
I'd probably sock. So it's there's a lot of terror, and then there's if you fail that terror, we've got some two-handed weapons.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's just so much punch in this list. I love it.
That's
I
cool.
think Birdo at this points level works really well, and this list has been written really well. It's going to be entirely on the execution to see if Lachlan can make this work.
Then we're coming on to another army that has been punched in the face, was
Ah.
the army of Dunland. So this list also slaps, basically. So we're going with the named heroes within this one. So it's Thryden, Goroth, Frida, and the Wildman Oathmaker. So Thryden's in the classic fast warband with 5 Dunland horsemen and 2 Crebain, and then the infantry spread out across Frida and Goroth. So those two are probably likely to meet, and then Thryden just does his business, while the Oathmaker is just boosting numbers massively with another
Model count to build
Yeah.
cows with fearless models nonetheless. I think it's fantastic.
It's just a classic. What, they're 5 points each.
5 points each.
Yeah, so it's just
6 points on the Wildman with 2-handed weapons, but otherwise, like, it's just cheap and it's powerful and it's scary.
He's got Dunland and Huskarl. So even if they're caught somehow by themselves from a mission, like those Dunland and Huskarls can somehow keep the Wildmen alive slightly more just from having that fight value increase.
Yeah, I was going to say, and even just putting themselves on the front line with the high defense as well, if you really want to slow people down, that sort of stuff. And I think this army has the model count to kind of absorb some losses and then hit back as well. It does rely a lot on those hitters in the list, especially the first 2 heroes, Thryden and Goroth. If they're clapping consistently, 1 or 2 models a turn, this army is going to be in a very good spot.
Yeah, I mean, like 5 horsemen on the Warcry turn.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, isn't it?
Yeah, because the numbers are slightly lower as a result, but if that is called early and like Matt finds a position where he can engage with 70%, 80% of the line and call that at an early stage in the game, it can that can end a game quickly if you can't.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I love it. It's fantastic. Alrighty. Shall I jump in with Jack and his Harad?
Mm-hmm.
So he is running a Mumuk war leader. Jack, I think, has come quite infamous for the war leader recently. He's got only 7 models in the Howdah. So it's 4 Mahud warriors with blowpipe and 3 warriors with bow. And the only other model on the table is the Witch King with a crown, Fellbeast, and the 3/14/3 profile. So this list is basically, I'm going to shoot you with my 3 courtesy bows until you decide to charge the war leader. And then I'm going to throw a Witch King at you to transfix you when you try to strike up. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And with the intimidating presence, you're going to be cancelling some of those moves and really putting a number on the opposing army. I like this list. I think it's clever. I think it's super low model count, and just cross your fingers and pray that you are not playing an objective-based game.
Yeah, it's just so matchup dependent. I mean, like there's certain I've come across this in massacred armies I've played, but then I thought, hey, if I play Solid Helms Deep, I've got 2 siege blisters. That talent looking very tempting.
If I play Army of the Dead and front load my Herald, who has 3 fate, 2 wounds, D8 into the Mumuk's move, I'm cruising.
Yeah,
because the King of the Dead calls a strike and kills him.
Yeah, so if you're after a good story, one way or another, if you find Jack during the day, he'll either be able to say, "Oh, we had Maelstrom, and I just walked on and killed 400 points."
Yeah, you're looking for a quick game, no matter how this works, right?
But I mean, it's always a fun game as well. Having a Mumuk on the table is just such a unique way that the game plays. I think it really
it changes so much about the game, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I'm glad. I think this is the only one anyway.
No, there's one more to come actually.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
So we've got Lachlan coming up next, who's bringing just a pure Isengard list. So it's Lurtz, Malher, and Ugluk as well. So it's the shield bow combo with Lurtz. He's got, oh my gosh, there's 3 Crebain in this army. That is a lot.
Yeah,
actually,
I love it.
2 Crebain and 1 Curbain. So obviously a distant relative has flown in from elsewhere to take over. And what I like probably most, now that I'm reading through this more, is that there's the Feral Urukai have been thrown in. So whether there's an old lister that he's got that he's just wanting to use and says, I don't care about rules, or if Lachlan wants to bring handicap to Masters, who knows, maybe he's from Queensland. There's extra thing. It's interesting. I haven't actually ever seen them on the table, so I'm hoping they pop off.
as much as anything
I don't want to disappoint you, so I'm not going to talk about those models. I'm going to tell you that the list is a cool list. I like how it's a drop to Legendary Legion, which is usually a auto-include style thing with these 3 heroes, and instead decided to bring crossbows. I like that a lot. I think it's clever, and the Cobain is smart as well. Means people can't just hide and shoot them out either.
Yeah.
So I rate it. I think it's good.
Think with other people bringing their Legendary Legions, I wonder if that's why he's spent the points on just the basic Orc Warriors. So if he puts one of those in with an Uruk-hai, someone's like, oh no, animosity, I'm dead. And then he just says no. And spins it off.
See, I think it's pure intimidation.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of
They don't
mind.
have war gear.
Might be the next level. He's just outthought us all.
I think this is the cleverest list in the entire thing. Prove me wrong. Alrighty, let's take it away with Alex and his Mordor Serpent Horde. He is... Yeah, you do this one. Why not?
Alright, so we've got the Witch King with the crown, obviously, on armoured horse this time, and the Morgul blade. So the first 2 warbands are identical. They've both got the Black Numenorians, so 5 of those, 5 Morannon Orcs and 2 Trackers. But the second one has gone for probably everyone's favourite spell dealer or spellcaster in the game, which is Khazard-Dum, the Firecaller. So,
yeah.
I mean, he almost has attacks of bringing some type of ring wraith. This time we've gone with the Witch King. But he's just an absolute beast. So having that Terror-Corsian front line of Black Numenorians to slow people down, and then even once you get through there, there's still more shields on orcs.
Yeah, and Morannon Orcs no less.
Yeah, like a Witch King combo with Khazard-Dum that's powerful enough as it is, but you ally in like, the cheapest walking bower with Saladin on armoured horse, and some 4 very strong boys, 1 very cheap rider with a big punch, and another Haradrim warrior. Like it's a lot of punch within this list.
I like it.
Yeah.
It synergizes kind of off of itself, almost in a really nice circular way. You bring Fight Forth the Numenorians, you bring Terror, and the Witch King's helping out with that. Kadush is casting magic. Witch King's casting magic. Kadush is going to sacrifice himself at some point if there's any of the Fearless bubble going off. Saladin's a 12-inch stand fight. Like, it's all just coming together. And you have a banner on Saladin as well, who probably isn't your leader, which is also nice because your banner is not going to give you, 8 victory points away now.
Yeah, and it's all
good list.
Yeah, and the way it's done, the warbands are very balanced as well. So it's if they're grouped, fantastic. If they're not, they can
survive hopefully long enough. Yeah, for someone to come to.
Yeah, they can still hold their own unless but if they're dying quickly, someone's committing a lot of points.
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
Like they will die to more points, not to less points, I don't think.
Yeah. Definitely agree. Alrighty, let's have a look at Huey and his Mordor. He's playing the Witch King of Angmar on a Fellbeast, 316-3. He's got himself also Kadush, big surprise, and Zagdosh. The other hero in this list is an Orc drummer, and he's got a whole bunch of Orcs. Mostly, it seems, Morannons, but he has a handful of just normal Orcs, a couple of Trackers, and some Log Riders with Dog Spears as well. So, it's a nice little splattering of everything. It's being locked on that Fight 3 with the troop side of it, but he's hoping those heroes are going to be doing the lifting for him. I like the addition of Zagdosh especially. That 3-attack profile that can swap its strength and defense 5 and 4 around wherever it needs to in those fights could come up absolutely clutch in staying alive in those last-minute moments. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that stood out to me was the drummer for it. So you've also got a Fellbeast on the Witch King, so that's a lot of... That threat ring is just enormous then. As a result, within that, so it's what is that Witch King going to do? I mean, there's a lot of bodies on the table, so it's you can envelop a lot of armies with this, and then it's the Witch King suddenly threatening everyone on the opponent's army. They really have to commit to a side, I think, and just push to try and get through this, and it's you're pushing through Morannon Orc to that stage. So it's actually it'll be interesting to see how this plays. There's no monster within it, or there's obviously Fellbeast, but there's no frontline hero. I don't think that you're really pushing through. And if
there's nothing that.
Yeah, if Zagdosh is who they go after, cool. Take Zagdosh. He's there for a bit of might. He can spend that early, and while they're busy doing Zagdosh, you've got a Witch King and Khazard-Dum.
Yeah. And like Zadush is one of those heroes. He's a 60-point hero that can easily contend with a 100-point hero on the other side of the table. And if Zadush dies in 2 turns, spending all of his might on a move off and 2 strikes, he's probably forced the opposing player to do something similar. And that villain needs to do for 60 points for the Witch King to turn around and go, "You're on no might. Here, meet my Fell Beast."
Yeah. Disgusting.
Yeah. I think it's a good list. I like it a lot.
Yeah. And then...
yeah, do you want to take us with Michael and his model?
Another model, listen. I mean, Kardush must have just come back on a major order or something, because he's just popping out in all the right places. So we've got the Undying, Goroth, and Kardush. And again, we've just got a bunch of Moranan Orcs in here. Some regular Orcs to boost the numbers. And even
Blackguard with axes.
Just that, like, hey, we're at the front here, try and hit us. Oh, axe to the face. And
Strength 6, let's go.
And he's got a small little, not even that small, 8 40mm bases running around. So there's 4 Morgul Knights and then another 4 Wild Riders.
Yes, I love the fact of the Morgul Knight inclusion. Just that little bit of terror around the Undying. Just really stopping enemy models moving, and that one turn you really need to tie up that Morgul Knight. I think it's going to be a really strong list, and I'm excited to see it on the table because I think this list could look absolutely gorgeous if Michael has done his job painting it up as well as I'm hoping he has.
This one has got a very concentrated Orc tracker contingent as well in that last warband as well. So it's been spread out in the other army list. So look out for some consistent shooting coming your way.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty. Our last of the Mordors, I believe, is Taliesin, running a... this is a surprising trio of heroes. The Witch King, Goroth, and Kadush. Wow.
Yeah.
So we got the Crown of Morgul, a horse, and 3 on the Witch King. This seems to be mostly Moranans again. We got a couple of Wild Riders in the mix, and the Witch King's warband is a Orc warband, which I think is quite clever just to boost those numbers up high enough, and obviously give Kadush that extra ammunition once the Orc trackers run out, just to keep those fireballs going on and on and on and on and on. And with it all being Orcs, that Kadush can actually drop down the the Fury, and just let them ride it out into terror lines themselves. It's a good list. It's a cheeky list, and I think Goroth and the Witch King are going to be the powerhouses of this list, while the Orcs die slowly around them.
Yeah, it's a very good front-to-back list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with a horse on the Witch King as well, not the Fell Beast, his model count is significantly higher than the other ones that we have seen. Do I want to explain my list? That's the real question. So I've taken Saladin on a horse, 4 Farharad Kings, all on camel with the Warspear Shield combo, as well as the Tainted on a Fell Beast. Was chatting with Alexa and a couple of other people about a list that I ran at a similar event. Sail on Brighter Shores was a 600-point event I went to a couple of weeks ago, where I kind of ran something similar without the Tainted. And I got suggested, you guys should bring the Tainted into the list. And I was like, that would be kind of funny. And so I tweaked around with the list a little bit, tried points and that sort of stuff. And I was like, if I drop all of my blood pipes, I can fit a Fell Beast. Let's do it. Why not? And so this is the list I bought. It's the weirdest list I think I've ever written. I don't think I've ever played a list with less than 30 models prior to this. Yeah. So I'm not convinced I'm going to go too well with it.
I don't think I've ever played a list that can take off 30 models as easily as this.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
I think, being able to, having the threat range to drop 30 models in a turn is quite scary. Now, obviously, it requires a lot of things to go my way, and it really requires me not to make any mistakes. But it is still a spooky, spooky list nonetheless. Yeah. So,
it's a scary one. I think it's one with you need to think very clearly before you play it what your approach will be, because whilst Chris can't make mistakes, it's if you make a mistake, it's borderline a game-ending mistake depending on whereabouts on the board it is.
Yeah, I definitely think this type of list, one that this elite, whoever makes the first big mistake loses the game. I think the Grey Company is going to be the same sort of thing as well. If they make a mistake, they're out of the game, or if they find a mistake, they get to capitalize and kill 15 models for free. Yeah. This list will do the same sort of thing to you.
fantastic.
But yeah, let's jump into some of our final lists with
so
Simon.
Almost min-maxed situation with I think it is min-maxed on the Warmore mark. So I've got another Warmore mark of Harad with all of the upgrades it can take with the Beastmaster, and 8 Mahud warriors inside that Howdah. And then on the ground, we've got a Mahud king on camel with 5 Mahud raiders. So just doing those maths, it's the classic kill everyone on the ground, but you still have to deal with the Murmak.
Something in the Murmak. Yeah.
And this is a Murmak that you do not want to deal with when it has those upgrades.
No, definitely not. The one downside to running the Murmak like this, instead of as Jack is doing it as the war leader, you do lose out on that fight 5 Murmak profile. Now, neither Murmaks can strike, so if someone does manage to charge it and strike up anyway, that's unfortunate and just how it is. But the other thing the Murmak on this list is missing is that intimidating presence that's stopping the opponent's move-offs with you. Now, obviously, Hood Beastmaster is still phenomenal and able to do a lot of good tricks with it. And again, you can't break the list unless you deal with the Murmak in some way. But I like the addition of the Raiders. I don't know why, but some reason camels are just the hot topic these days, and I'm interested to see what they do with this list.
You lose the move off, someone charges your Murmak, and you just clear the path with a couple of raiders, and this next turn you just fly through.
Exactly, right? And I think that's basically what they're going to be doing. They're going to be playing tag with the Raiders onto any hero that can threaten a Murmak, and then just let the Murmak just hit and hit and hit and hit and hit each turn. Let's jump into James with the first of our Easterling lists. We have him running Amdur, an Easterling captain, with the armored horse and shield, and a dragon knight as well, which I assume is going to be mounted.
Yeah, I mean, it has
because no, you can't bring them on foot. But this whole list is a mounted list. So, oh no, not true. I've completely lied to you. I saw the last warband and got excited. But it has a lot of punch in this list. It has a large density of black dragons with pikes and then all the cataphracts. And it also just does have a lot of bodies on the table. It does have the war drum as well and a banner in the Dragon Knight's warband, which means it can play the speed game. If it knows it's not going to win the shooting engagement, it can just sprint you down and fight you front to back. Or it can play the kiting game and play around the skirmishing and play the objective side of it as well. I'm really interested to see what they do with this list. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm also interested to see. I really want at one point for the war drum and banner on horse to just slingshot around the map. Like, actually, we're losing this side. Let's go to the other pipeline.
Yeah, 15 inches away and just put them on the.
And then just within a turn, all of a sudden you've got 3 inches on the other side of the map. Getting a nice boost. So it's interesting. I haven't come across Easterlings being played this way, but I can see the potential damage output that this can provide, and at lower points, like Amdur and different things, it's just what you have to deal with situations like this if they can get in the right spot. And they definitely have the speed to get where they need to go.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But then we've got Rocky on another Eastlings that haven't taken the new Legendary Legion within it. So you've got Rutabi, Amdur again, and Brodie?
Brodie,
yeah. Brodie. So it's 2 of the new toys in here and Amdur as well for support. So they've got Acolytes in this time as well. So immediately with 4 Acolytes, your game plan is flexible and it is different to the previous list. You have options to jump hurdles, just like 2 attacks to the front. It gives flex to the Eastlings that they normally don't have.
Definitely.
And it's obviously it's got that pike block. You've got the scattering of black dragons just to boost the fight value. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one plays with Master of Battle, Amdur doing his thing.
Yeah. And with Brodie in the list as well, like you have so many cool tricks you can do with a nice little tremor. You can buff up your Amdur or the Rutabi and go for absolute slaughter. Or even just go for that, keeping your models around in the late game. Like, it's a flexible list. It can play every part of the game. The one thing I'd say I'd love to see slightly different is dropping everything that's not a Dragon Cult Acolyte and just adding more of those into the list. I think this list would have been great with just 25 of them.
It's
But-
that tremor, not people prone, acolytes jumping around, you've got traps, you've got no control zones.
Yes,
It's
I
like-
love the fact that acolytes can just like jump over walls, do their throwing. Is it a throwing dagger they have? I think. Yeah, throwing dagger
daggers.
engagement. They're gonna get some 5-up, so they're gonna get some cheeky charges, and then the next turn just jump back over the wall and laugh at the opponents that try to follow them.
Yeah.
I think it's so cheeky the fact they can do little things like that, and I'd love to see. Although he only has 4 of them, I'd love to see them do some tricks like that with this list.
for sure.
But yeah, let's
Yeah.
move into our final list with Vaughn running his Ugluk Scouts. Now, he is someone who is an excellent painter, this has been a big passion project for him, these guys, and he's running Ugluk, Mahur, Kushnak, and an Uruk-hai captain with a shield. It's a shame he's not doing the 200 axe boy, but that is okay. The big thing I think to look at with a list like this is the ratio between the orcs and the Uruk-hai. Now, he does, I believe, have most of his bows, in fact, all of his bows are coming on the Uruk-hai side of things, which is exactly what you want to see. He's got a banner in there, only the 1 banner. Oh no, 2 banners, I lied to you. 2 banners is very useful, especially when he's running this many models. Like 4 almost full warbands is a lot to deal with, especially when he has this much might kicking around.
Yeah, I mean, even
What is
without the drum, these guys are flying across the table.
Yeah.
And like
10
the
points
the
of
bows
might.
with the flex, but then having the banners as well, it's like they can go 2
Yeah.
separate ways, and it's
And it's still scary.
strong.
And Mahur just absolutely chops through models. Ugluk is no slouch either. Kushnak with the strike at least provides that utility. And the Uruk-hai captain, Uruk-hai captains are a phenomenal profile, especially at a 55-point profile. Like, they're cheap and they're powerful and they're strong. And I think this is a very, very flexible army that can really split up onto 2 flanks and double stack with like Ugluk, Kushnak on one side and Mahur the captain the other, or any of those sort of combos. Or even scarier, mix those orcs into all 4 of those little squads and go spread out across the place. Because the +1 to wound is going to kick in every time the orcs get into combat.
+2 to wound with a 2-hand weapon as well.
Yeah, exactly. Vaughn is no slouch when it comes to using those 2-handed weapons. And he's not scared anytime there's a slight advantage just to pop that +2 to wound. He'll probably piercing strike to get +3 where it matters and just laughing dead models as he just slaughters the world. I think this is a cool list.
Yeah, he'll just laugh and
But-
then we'll get excited. and just
Yeah,
go,
exactly. That does bring us to the end of our list review. I think there is a really big variety of lists going along this time. A lot more variety than I actually thought there would be as well. There's a couple of armies I would have loved to have seen. I would love to see an Ent list rocking the boat, for example. But that's okay. Unfortunately,
we'll
we
see what
can't
that
all be here.
Monster Mash, but there's a new forest army in town. So
Yeah, very true.
Yeah,
Maybe
people-
they've all
people
moved on to the
thinking
Bears, hey?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Quite
what I love
possible.
most as well is just even when you did see the same army list at the top, everyone has a unique take within their army as well. So you might
Yeah.
play like the same army list twice in a day, but you will get 2 very different games out of it as well.
Exactly, yes. And because you'll be playing different missions and different players, there'll definitely be something to look out for. So I'm really excited for the event. I'm sure you are as well.
100%.
Yeah, and I will hopefully look forward to seeing a great many of our listeners there. I know, feel free to say hi to us if you do see us around and that sort of stuff. And for those who are not attending the event, thank you for sticking with us this far. I know this one's been a bit of a longer episode, but if this is content you guys do enjoy, please feel free to give a like, comment, all that sort of stuff. Don't have to. If you don't want to, please just carry on the rest of your day as well. Completely fine by us. But otherwise, have a lovely day.